Hello and welcome to Lynchburg Live. I'm your host, Linda Smith. We hear a lot on television and on the news about sexual exploitation and trafficking of women and children around the world. My guest tonight is Mike Zeeland, president of Freedom 424. He'll be telling us about measures his organization takes to raise awareness about this terrible thing that happens and attempt to put a stop to this activity. Mike, welcome to Lynchburg Live.
Thank you, Linda.
When we get started, or as we get started, do you mind just telling us what Freedom 424 is?
Absolutely. Freedom 424 we are an organization that exists to bring awareness to the human trafficking and sexual exploitation of both women and children. It's estimated to be 27 million slaves in the world. About 21.6 of those are 21.6 million of those are women and children. And so we exist, first of all, to bring awareness to the issue, that it is such a large problem. Second to that, we want to bring action. We kind of help people go from finding out information about it to how can I do something about it. And then from there, we also connect with organizations around the world that are actually helping to bring a stop to it.
Who actually started this?
It's Christine Gillette. At the time, she was a college student at Liberty University when she began. And she had heard that slavery basically still existed, but as most, when they first hear, you're curious and you're like, really, slavery's really out there? Is it really a big problem? Because most people think slavery was abolished years ago.
Right.
And so she actually talked to her dad and said, I'd like to go find out more about this. And so they planned a trip to go to Thailand. Southeast Asia tends to be, is kind of the hub, kind of where a lot of this activity does take place. And so they went over actually on vacation to really see what was going on, how big of a problem it was. And while she was there, she was exposed to just really horrific things that she saw, and that it's in your face. And it's illegal, but it's everywhere.
Right.
And so while she was there, she saw girls her own age, and she just said, wow, that could be me. How blessed I am, first of all. And as she left, she just talked to her dad and said, I can't not do anything about this. I have to do something. And so as they went away, they basically talked about what they could do about it. And that's kind of where Freedom 424 started.
How long ago was that?
That was in 2009.
So it's been a while.
It's been a while,
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Now I know, in just doing research for the show, that the name is significant. Can you tell me what that is?
Sure, yeah. So as they left, what they had found out, Christine and her dad, Steve, what they had found out is it costs about $24 to bring 24 hours, basically, to freedom for one of these young women or children, for kind of a night or a day of freedom out of this sex slave trade that they're in. And so as they were thinking about it, they said, okay, it's $24, 24 hours. Well, let's bring them freedom for 24. So it's 24 hours for $24. And so the slogan of Freedom 424 is that freedom begins with a day.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, is this a Christian-based movement?
It is. It's first of all, slavery is, that's just a humanitarian issue, right? And I know everybody wants to get behind it, but as the church, as essentially the bride of Christ, you really feel you can't sit by and not do anything when you know this is happening. So it is our goal that, first of all, we want to bring them freedom. We just want to get them out of the situation they're in. But not only secondary to that, I should say, it's not really second, but the next part is after we give them freedom, we want them to experience freedom for eternal life through Christ.
And this is a start.
This is a start,
this certainly
exactly.
gives them an opportunity to see what it's like.
Yeah, to show them love that they've never experienced before. Get them out into a safe house, a rehabilitation center where they're actually exposed to people who really care about them, and that through that love and that caring, that they can be exposed that there is a God who loves them,
right.
And then that there is opportunity for just a different life for them.
Now, this is a nonprofit, but is it international now, or is it?
It is, and really it started international, being that the majority of human trafficking and sex slave trade, at least where a lot of it is exposed, is in that Southeast Asia area. And so that's really where Freedom 424 began. For the first probably about year and a half, 2 years, that's where it was essentially focused, and really just kind of getting its feet underneath it as an organization, and really not being able to do too much internationally or globally. Right. So it started with an organization in Bangkok, Thailand, called Beginnings. Since then, we have been able to get to other countries around the world, in Kenya, India, Guatemala, and
Wonderful.
Nicaragua at this point. So,
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
How did you get involved in this? I mean, to me, it
Sure.
just sounds like something that I wouldn't even imagine.
Yeah, it was through Steve Pettit, who is actually Christine's father. So went on the trip, saw this, and they kind of started these ideas. I got involved separate from Freedom 424 initially, and just sharing with what the problem is out there. And first of all, thinking that him introducing the idea to me that slavery is still in existence and really a greater problem than ever any known recorded time anyway that we know. And so with him just kind of sharing the fact that there's 27 million slaves and just going through just the facts and just the stories that you can't help but be moved by, he introduced the idea, or kind of talked to me about the idea, maybe starting a race that we would do. And so I got involved to it through one of our events that I'll know we'll talk about a little bit later, called Run for Their Lives.
Right.
And through that, we then started supporting Freedom 424, and then just about a year ago is when Freedom 424 and Run for Their Lives, we kind of said, well, hey, let's do this in more of a partnership, and that's when I became the president of Freedom 424 and got fully involved in Freedom 424 alone.
Now you have daughters, and I imagine that brings this to the forefront for you.
Yeah.
Imagining the possibility of anything like that happening to your children.
It is. It definitely brings it home, and it says, again, if those were one of my daughters, would I want somebody doing something to stop it?
Right.
And that's what kind of keeps me going every day, for sure, is that I have a beautiful wife and 4 daughters at home, and they're age 11 down to 3 right now. And average age that most girls are sold into prostitution is about 14. However, there's girls as young as 5 and 6
See,
that
just
are
blows
trafficked.
my mind.
I look at my 5-year-old, how innocent she is and naive, and just wants to play and has no idea about the evil that's out there. And when I hear those facts, and what those kids are exposed to at that age, we just can't help but do anything about it. And what I love about not only my girls, but kids that just want to
Right.
get out there, when you tell them that, we don't get into the details what's going on, we just tell them there's kids that don't ever get to see the light of day. They don't get to play. They don't have anybody that loves them. They get treated badly, and they just want to do something about it. I just love that innocence. So.
What countries do you predominantly see this in?
It's in 161 countries, reported anyway, 161 countries. So it's out there, very evident. It's more evident in places like Southeast Asia, Cambodia, and Thailand, places where it's illegal, but it's sex tourism, really. It's a big part of their country's revenue. So it's more evident in those countries. The other thing is that it looks differently in other countries. In Kenya, when we're in Kenya, it's not sex tourism, really. It's more part of the culture, really, and just exploitation of women and just how they're treated and abused in this way. And so, but it's more of a cultural thing more than it is through the tourism kind of industry. And so it looks differently in each country that we enter, and every country we get in, you have to begin by learning how, the process to why it's happening and how it's going on. So.
This has to be a tremendous undertaking for this organization to try to do that. And you partner with other organizations.
Yeah, we sure do. It's such a huge problem that most people don't know how many organizations are really out there fighting it, because it is such a huge problem. And they're doing a great job with it, but they kind of get lost, essentially, because it can be overwhelming. It's estimated to be 27 million slaves, $32 billion industry, annual industry. So, how do you really tackle that? And so, as Freedom 424, what we really felt is our banner, the best way that we can make an impact and really fight this injustice of human trafficking and sexual exploitation, is really to, first of all, be loud, make a voice, just bring awareness. We don't want anybody not to know what's going on, and we
Right.
just feel that's the first step, because if you know what's going on, you're going to be, just that awareness brings you to kind of looking around, be a little bit more intent or intentional about seeing something that doesn't look right here in the States, which we can get to later, or internationally if you're traveling, just a situation that doesn't look right, that you're aware of what might be happening. Second, if there's a spotlight on it, if more people know about it, it's going to be harder to continue
Right.
operating.
Right.
It's harder when you have to kind of hide from everything, whether it be the law or just people knowing what's going on, and even educating young girls around the world that that they can be easily lured into these into being trafficked.
Now, these are boy children are also
They sure
part
are.
of this, aren't they?
They sure are, absolutely, yeah. It's 80% is estimated to be women and children. What number of those of the children is boys and girls? We don't have those kind of percentages, but there's a large number are boys as well. So.
Now, how do they target these groups that are doing this trafficking?
Yeah, they do. There's definitely a process to it, and it's hard for me to get my mind wrapped around it because it's just dark and it's evil,
Right.
you know. So, and the evil always seems to be thinking one step ahead. You know, they're trying not to be caught, and so they could be changing things all the time from what I'm learning and seeing what's going on. But from the best that we can see and how it's at least been targeted up to this point, poverty is the number one driving force, first
Right.
of all, you know. And from two methods really from poverty, it's that, first of all, the fact that they need an income, they need to feed their family. So if I'm a father and I have, 3, 4, 10 kids, and I can't put food on the table, it usually would fall to the responsibility of the oldest child, in most of these cultures, the girl, that it's their responsibility to provide for the family. And so either sometimes they are trafficked or sold into sex slavery. Sometimes they're just allured into saying, if I live in one country, another country somewhere else says, hey, there's jobs over there and you can go work and send money back, and maybe it's a maid at a hotel or working at a restaurant or something, a legitimate job.
Right.
Once they get there, they find out that it's not so legitimate, and then they're trapped, and they trap them in by saying, well, now you owe me X dollars because I paid for your transportation here. I paid for your food on the way, and so this is how you're going to work to pay this off. And so that's the biggest target, I guess, is just through poverty, and that they're going to put food, they're going to feed their family, and so it kind of leads into that. The other big reason is from areas where there's many orphans, or there's been a lot of kind of war-torn areas where it's just a lot of desperate need. And that there's just not very many adults that are around to look after them, and they're just easy targets. They can just be picked off and abducted. And many times people don't even know that they're missing for maybe a few days or a week, and then by then it's probably too late to really be able to track them down.
What kind of living conditions are these kids in once they're sucked into this kind of thing?
Yeah, there is a variety, and so not that I definitely have the answers to all that are out there, but from what we've been exposed to, it can be from what you would consider a moderate, living conditions, in that they're fed, they have a bed, their own bed, and they, they're at least taken care of. It's hard for me to say that,
Right.
In terms of the situation they're in, but in terms of living conditions, they're taken care of anyway. They have food and that. But then the other extreme is that it can be as filthy and just disgusting as just kind of a big warehouse, essentially, of just a bunch of little rooms with a bed in it, and many times they don't get food, drink, water. They get nothing unless they are willing to do what it takes, kind of do whatever is asked of them. So.
All right, so a lot of them are doing this so they can send money home to take care of their families. Are they making any money themselves to send it home?
They're again, situation by situation, but most of the time, the money is supposed to be there's money that their owners are
Right.
supposed to be sending back. I know that does happen in many cases, but I'm sure in many cases that money doesn't make it back to the family, and they of course have no way of knowing. Especially if they've been trafficked to a country where they don't speak the language, and they don't know how to communicate in that country. But in terms of them getting paid, they probably are paid, and sometimes they are. They are, not always, but they are. But their costs always seem to be greater than their wages, and so no matter how much they work, they can never pay off what they owe, to buy their own freedom. So.
Now, you said girls are usually around the age of 14, but the ages for these kids can go from much younger.
Yeah, it can go. I mean, literally, it can go as young as age 5 and 6. That there's evidence of them being trafficked in, and sadly, that's really kind of from disease, HIV, AIDS,
Right.
and that these men mostly who are buying these young women and girls, they want to make sure that they don't have that they're not going to get HIV or AIDS, and so they buy these young kids or traffic them very early to kind of ensure that that's not a problem.
If this is really all that some of these people have known, is it hard to get them out of it because it's the only thing they've really known?
That's probably one of the biggest frustrations of the organizations that we partner with, and that you go in and you rescue them and you take them back to a safe house where you can just love on them, and you can just really just pour into them, try and show them love that they never experienced.
Right.
And whether it be they don't know any better, or they're worried that their family is not going to have the money sent to them if they don't go back, or they've been addicted to a drug that they've been given the whole time, and that addiction just causes them to run back, sometimes within hours of them being taken out of these safe houses. So.
Like I said, it just blows my mind. I can't get my head around them wanting to go back. Mm-hmm. How do you get them out for a day?
Well, it's really by example, it's in Thailand. We go into these brothels where they're basically on show, and you go in there and if someone wants to buy them, they go in there and they pay their bar fee. That's what it's called. And so what we do is we go in and we buy them, and we say, hey, we're buying you, and then we take you back to the safe house to then introduce them to opportunity to
Wonderful.
Say, hey, if you take this step, it's a risk, it's dangerous sometimes, maybe even the financial risk to your family. But let's start this. We're going to educate you. We're going to teach you another trade, so there's another way to make money and to still provide for your family even. But the lure of the culture, and that they just feel like they're going to embarrass their family. They feel like they've already been told that they're not worth anything. And so even though we take them out and we try to love on them, I guess almost been brainwashed to the fact of, now that I've already done these things, I'm no good. No one wants me. No one cares about me, right? And so they think there's nothing else for me. So.
There has to be a lot of danger involved in doing something like this in the organizations you work with, going in and trying to get these kids out.
Yeah, there's different levels of danger, I guess, is the best way for you to answer that. There's kind of usually 3 tiers is kind of the best way to kind of describe it in terms of how dangerous it is. And the first tier being not so dangerous, second tier, which we're typically more involved within, that there is some danger there, but as long as the brothels are kind of getting paid, and that they know that if a girl decides to leave, that they can probably go ahead and just try and abduct somebody else, and so it's not so much. But then there's this third tier that we've never been exposed to as Freedom 424, and there are some ministries that have been able to kind of get behind those doors, but it's very dark, it's very underground, and there's a very high risk of life, being involved in that. And so those are also organizations like International Justice Mission, which is basically an organization of lawyers who are more equipped to be able to handle that kind of a risk in the situation too.
Now, have you been on these trips?
Right now I've been to one. We have teams that have gone to all of our countries, of course. I'm not sure right now if we want to put up that slide of the different countries that we're in. There's a slide that listing all the different countries that we're in. If we put that up, it'll see the opportunities in the different countries that we see. But I've been to Kenya right now, but we have teams that have gone to, again, as I said, all these different countries. And in Kenya, it's not, as we described earlier about going in and paying the brothel fee. They're really more running for their lives in Kenya, where they're in this culture situation and they're kind of trapped into it. And if they don't kind of run to this safe house, really by risking their own lives to do so, that's the only way to kind of get them out of safety. And so they actually have to run, where then we have the safe house where we go in, versus us going to have to find them so much. They have to kind of leave like that. And so I've seen there, and I'm actually going back there in a few months to kind of take part there. And I'll also be in Uganda as well, another organization that we're going to be partnering with there based off the sex slave from the war trade. But you saw on our list also we have United States on there, and that's an area that we're going to be getting. We're here, so we're obviously involved in it. But there's some good safe house, some rescue rehabilitation centers here in the U.S. that we're going to be pouring into a lot heavier in the next few months.
Which brings up a question. You hear about these things happening in foreign countries. It doesn't seem to affect us because it's not here, but it is here.
It is here. I've estimates anywhere between 100,000 and 200,000 sex slaves right here in the U.S. And so we know those are probably all underground, being it is illegal, and if you're aware of it, there would be a stop to it. We know our law enforcement would put an end to that, and the FBI and human trafficking organizations are doing everything they can at this point, to do it. But it's so underground, it's so hidden. It's a long process, but it is. There's Ohio is a big hub, Atlanta, Seattle, of course, Nevada.
Some of the larger.
Yeah, it is. Super Bowl is actually known to be one of the largest human trafficking events in the world. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, to get one child or one woman out of this situation, not just the 24 hours or the $24.
Yeah.
How much does it cost approximately to get a person out?
It's what, permanently?
Permanently.
Well, I mean, really, I mean, per country, it kind of changes.
I'm
I
sure.
get the dollar amount essentially, but really, I guess the best way I'd answer that is it's $24 because that gets them out. Once they're out, then there is the cost, which I know you're asking. Really, what's the cost then for them to stay out? Which is then the cost of the education, the care, and that's the cost that really varies per country. But roughly $24 to probably somewhere in $40 would take care of most girls on a monthly basis. To really be able to provide for them, because that bar fee is one of the more expensive costs once you get them out, and based on the size of the facility, how much it costs for their education and for their shelter and food.
So you guys basically do fundraisers and partner with these people who are right there to bring them out.
Yes, we do.
Tell me about your fundraisers.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a good time actually to put our event slide up. It's a listing of the different events that we do. We have, again, going back to summarize, we have an awareness action. First of all, we want to bring people about it. The second step is our events. We like to say, okay, you now know how big and how bad of an issue it is. And so this list of events here that we have on the screen are different events that we do to say, now take action. It's hard to say, well, I can't go to Thailand, I can't go to Kenya, but I want to do something.
Right here.
I have the information, I want to do something. So these events are what we do to say, yeah, come on out. The Run for Lives race is our biggest event. That's a race it's a run-walk race. We emphasize that. We have probably 50% or more of our registrants for our race are walkers.
And that started here in Lynchburg.
That started here in Lynchburg. We're going into our 4th year. We had over 2,000 people last year, well over 2,500 people that were walking or running on the same day nationwide. This year our goal is that we're going to be going towards 10,000 people across the nation. And so that's just a great event to say, okay, I know that there's a problem, I want to step up and do something about it, And then we do events like the Frocks for Freedom, which is the clothing, where basically designer clothes and kind of attracts towards the women population, and they want to go out and buy clothes, and knowing that the cost of the clothes they're buying is going towards buying a woman or a child a night of freedom.
When is the Run for Their Lives, or has it just been?
No, it's in the fall. October 20th is this year's race. It's always in October. And again, as I said, this is our 4th annual. It's at Heritage High School. It's our event. R4TL.com or runfortheirlives.org is our website, and it tells the information about it. And it's open to everybody. And as I said, at least 50% or more of the people that come out are walkers, because they just want to come out and they just want to stand up against the injustice of sexual exploitation, and that's an easy way to do it. So,
do you know how much approximately you make on these?
On the
events, yeah.
Yeah, each event is different. But last year in the Run for Lives event, we actually were able to raise well over $60,000 that went towards these partner organizations that then we partner with, across the world.
All right, something I wanted to ask you for sure before we are running out of time.
Yeah.
Getting involved with this and the things that you do, how has that affected you? It's bound to have a profound effect on you, your involvement.
Yeah, it changes the priorities in your life, and it says, okay, well, what's important? What am I going to put my time, my energy, my family's time into? And so it's really changed me and my involvement in that. Our family, our entire family, we're at these events. My girls participate. They all come out and run the race. We put the names on our arms, girls that kind of represent the girls that we're running for. So it's something we talk about in our household. We talk about how blessed we are.
Right.
So it's one of those things that you can't. Once you know about it, I hope that people strongly get involved. That's actually one slide. If we can put up the last slide, the Freedom Movement slide, is an easy way to get involved, because going back to awareness, the more people that know about it, if you go to our website, freedom424.org, which is listed at the bottom there, if you go there, you'll see on there the Freedom Movement. And one of our biggest things we want to do as awareness is we want to get this army of people who are saying, yes, I'll stand up against this. A unified voice standing against slavery that's saying this is wrong and we're going to bring an end to it. And so by joining the Freedom Movement, which is no cost to that, it's just saying, I'm going to put my name there. I'm going to be a part of this. That's one of the biggest ways to get involved. And then from there, get involved with one of our events.
And everybody you touch, and as you're bringing your children up to appreciate what you're doing, you know, it will spread.
That's right.
And I hope it moves fairly fast for you.
Thank
Do you
you.
want to show one more slide of these girls?
Sure, yeah. If we want to put up the pictures of the girls, they're wearing actually Run for Lives t-shirts from this last year. And these are some girls in Kenya that I got to meet. I think these two pictures, if I remember, I'm actually blessed to be in the middle of them with them. And
there you go.
These here are 4 sisters. I'll start with the oldest, which is to my left, Mary, and she ran for her lives, and then through the rescue center and herself, she brought her other sisters there, which were under the same treatment and abuse that she was going under. And they're just amazing girls, and they're just, I was over there, and they're just thanking us, you know, thanking us for being a part. And we did such a small part, you know, but it's
and meeting these people makes it really real for you.
It really is when you can put your hands on it. Yep.
You know, I admire you so much for what you do. I wish we had more time to talk more in depth about this. And if anybody wants to make a donation to you, they can go to the website that you just showed.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes, they sure can. Well, thank you, Linda. I mean, it's great. Obviously, enjoy talking about it, and any chance we get to spread more of the word, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks,
And maybe you can come back right before one of these events and give it some press.
Would love to.
All right, thank you again.
Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. My next show will feature a local author and her book about sharing her life with multiple sclerosis. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.